Chicks dig me because I rarely wear underwear, and when I do, it's usually something unusual.
He's not on steroids, but it was nice of you to ask.
You are a very bad person, Peter.
Hey, Peter.
Yeah.
Watch out for your cornhole, bud.
Right.
23 years of broadcasting. I thought I'd seen it all, folks.
You gotta love a man who can broadcast naked behind a microphone.
What the hell are you doing?
Here's your host of the Fitness Buff Show, Pete Williams.
Welcome to the Fitness Buff Show. I'm Pete Williams, along with co-host Whitney Lassiter. How often do you take your car into the shop? Probably every 3,000 miles for oil, other routine, make sure everything's going right. But how often do you take your body into the shop? Even avid athletes, fitness enthusiasts often ignore these vital checkups. Well, joining us today is David Peterson. He is the creator of Body Tune-Up Shop. You can also find that at bodytuneupshop.com. He has a process called Myotonics. Now, if Myotonics sounds like some high-octane energy shake, no. It's a process where you're going to improve your flexibility, going to improve your core strength, and all manner of other things. Right, David?
Yep. I'm an exercise physiologist by trade, but I was frustrated with the traditional stuff of stretch, and not getting any kind of results, and now we're going to actually sort of try to turn that theory on its ear. We're going to show flexibility and immediate strength and flexibility right before your eyes.
Okay, we'll let Whitney, our guinea pig as always, get up here. And again, as we look at it, David, when you see somebody like Whitney, an avid runner, just did a half marathon 2 days ago, in fact, what are you looking for just for starters as you're diagnosing, you're seeing her for the first time?
Well, one of the primary things we want to look at when we look at someone's sort of their muscle balance is we want to see how well the hamstring and the psoas major works, because the psoas major is what I call the keystone muscle of posture. It's the muscle that attaches your lumbar spine to your leg. So any kind of imbalances in the leg are going to cause imbalances in the spine. Any spine balances are going to be represented in the leg. So that's why with the number one muscle we need to get working is psoas major. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do here. But we're going to use her hamstrings as an indication of how well the psoas major holds, because the psoas major is the key stabilizer of the pelvis, so that the pelvis needs to be kept still when we want to test the flexibility of the hamstrings. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take Whitney's hamstrings up to the end of range, and she's going to tell me when she feels her low back pushing in. Okay. So we got about 90 degrees of flexibility there, and I'm not going to measure that because that's clearly obvious right there. That's easily 90 degrees. Okay.
Which is pretty darn good. I don't mean to break in, but
absolutely.
for somebody...
That's what I was saying, is she's got good flexibility in her hamstrings, but it can get better. But what we also want to see is what kind of hip flexibility does she have. And on this side, we notice that her hip flexibility is actually pretty uniform. You can see that, Pete. She's got internal, external rotations about the same. In fact, I'd almost say she's got more internal rotation here than external rotation. That actually looks to me like that's a little limited. Does that bother you at all when I pull in a little bit like that?
No, that feels fine.
Feels okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. But what we also want to do is see what kind of hamstring strength she has. So what we're going to do is you're going to have Whitney, you're going to hold on to the table there, and on 3, you're going to resist for me and not let me straighten this leg, okay? So we're going to go on 3. 1, 2, 3, hold. Okay? Her hamstring strength is actually quite good, but it had a little bit of give there at the end. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a little muscle test on there. So we're going to just get a fix on the strength of your hamstrings. So what we're going to do is, again, we're going to do that test. This is a little muscle dynamometer, which is what we use to measure strength. Okay, and what we're going to do is you're going to keep that knee bent, and on 3, you're going to hold, okay? All right, 1, 2, 3, hold. Okay. And we have a peak force of 61 there, Pete.
61. I love this thing. It's something Dr. Bones McCoy would be using, right? You just hold that up. 61 is your peak force. Okay, 61 on a scale of 100 or?
That's a 61 pounds.
61 pounds.
Of force that she can generate. So that's pretty good. But we want to see if it improves.
Okay.
So what we're going to do, Whitney, is we're going to have you go ahead and roll over onto your right side for me. Okay, what you're going to do is bring this leg back, bend this knee, and try to keep your pelvis on its side. You can use your hand there to brace you. Okay. And it might be a little bit tender.
Tickles a little bit.
Tickles a little bit, yeah. These muscle reflex points, that I call them, can be either tender or ticklish. Sometimes they start ticklish and they become tender. Sometimes
actually.
Sometimes they get they're tender straight away. But the tenderness, Pete, we look as a source of dysfunction. If the point is tender, it means that there's weakness in that area. So they're sort of maps of us being able to sort of diagnostic little tools that we can use to measure someone's function.
Okay, it's becoming tender. There, yes.
Excuse the table squeaking. But it's, is it picking up or is it getting less?
No, it's tender there, yes.
So the idea here, David, we're going to activate this area, which in turn will help the hamstring flexibility, which we're going to retest momentarily.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to loosen up her rotation of her hip as well, which is an interesting. Basically, we're going to have a cascade effect. The psoas major has a cascade effect on the entire hip flexibility. So we want those hamstrings to improve, but we also want the flexibility and the strength to improve, not just one or the other.
Feels like it's getting better.
Okay, Whitney, let's go ahead and have you roll back onto your back for me. Okay, now we want to take a look at your hamstring flexibility now.
Right.
Where do you feel the end of range now? There?
Right, right there.
Okay, so we've gained probably about 20 degrees of flexibility, and I haven't stretched you yet.
Wow.
Does it feel a lot looser?
It does feel a lot looser.
Yeah? Now let's just
for
see.
That?
Let's just see here.
Crazy.
Now, Pete.
The external rotation looks better, and the internal, which we thought was...
This is external rotation, but
right.
that has improved a lot. Can you feel the improvement in your flexibility?
Yes, yes.
But let's also test your strength. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and test the strength again. Okay, so on 3, I'm going to have you hold for me. Let it just bring it down a little bit. Okay, on 3, you hold. 1, 2, 3, hold. Knee cracked there a little bit. 73.
73.
Oh, my
All right.
goodness.
So that's, I don't know what percentage that is improvement, but that's pretty darn good in just a few seconds of work.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
about a 20% improvement,
Yep.
sure, from 61 to 73.
Okay, now we're going to quickly do your other hamstring, okay? So we want to go ahead and, I don't know if we're going to just, because of the camera,
No,
we'll
you
just
can
try
go
to-
wherever you need to go, David. That's fine.
And we notice here, her hamstring flexibility. Do you feel your low back pushing in now?
That's
Again, it's about 90 degrees. But we notice with her, on this side, that she's got very limited internal rotation. She's got tons of external rotation here, but the internal rotation is limited. We don't want that. We want that to be even. We should have about 45 degrees of external rotation and 45 degrees of internal, but that's tight. Does that bug you a little bit?
It does.
Okay, so what I want us to do is I want you to go and roll now onto your left side. Good. Okay, you're going to lay down. Bring the leg back there for me. Bring the knee up. Bring the knee over there. Oh, one thing I wanted to do is before I started, I forgot I just want to quickly get a fix on your strength of your hamstring. We didn't get a fix on your strength. That's the beauty of live TV, Pete. Okay, so now bend the knee there for me. And on 3, I want you to go and hold for me, okay? Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3, hold. Okay, 65.
Okay, so a little stronger from the beginning than the left side.
It's what I kind of expected. The left side is, in most people, is their weaker side. So now we can have you go and lay onto your left side.
Could it be part of it? Once she's getting the hang of this and getting into it, I wonder if people don't say, okay, I'm going to resist a little more this time. Maybe is part of that maybe we have to compensate for to some degree?
No, because people will often tell me that they're actually trying less hard. They feel like things are just working better on the second time around. In fact, Whitney might even say that. Do you feel like that second time you didn't even feel like you had to work quite as hard? Like it just felt like...
On the left side, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, on the left side, for sure, yeah. It just seemed to come.
More tender, ticklish than the other side, or less?
This one seems maybe less. Now I'm starting to feel it. Becoming tender, yeah.
So like I say, as the point becomes less tender, we know that we're starting to improve her strength and her flexibility. So the body doesn't, it's basically we're using it as a diagnostic tool. These, you know, just like it, so there's a very appropriately named approach called the tune-up shop, because just like you take your car into the Goodwrench shop and they've got a computer that tells you what's wrong with your car, well, your body does the same thing. These points are diagnostic. They tell us that there's weakness, there's dysfunction at this point of the body.
So do you know, I mean, do you feel it whenever you're pushing? You feel that when you hit the spot that needs to be...
Sometimes it feels gristly, it feels rubbery, it feels like there's a little, like a trigger point on that. I'm actually working on your bone, on your femur right here. And that's where the point is sore.
Wow, that right there is really tender.
That makes sense from the pounding of running, right? Yeah.
But the thing is also, one of my premises of my everything that I do on is got to do with form and function. And your form, being your posture, needs to be in good alignment, because otherwise it'll compromise your function. So the analogy is if you run with a bunch of muscle imbalances, it's kind of like driving your car with bad alignment. It'll get you there, but you're going to wear stuff out. You'll wear tires out, you'll wear joints out, CV joints. It's the same thing with the body. Over time, we start to wear things out because they're not working quite as well. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at your hamstring flexibility now. Tell me where it's pushing into your back.
There.
But look at that. We've already gained about another 20 degrees of flexibility. Do you feel how much better that is?
Yes.
Now let's take a look at her rotation. Look how much looser does that feel now?
Whoa. That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? But let's also see if you improved in strength. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go and do another muscle test. Okay, you're going to bend the knee for me. And on 3, you're going to hold, okay? Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3, hold. 72.
72, all right.
So she improved from 65 to 72.
Okay.
So now it's pretty even. Didn't she also say it's like 71 on the other
There's
side?
about a 20% improvement on that side, about a 10 to 12% improvement this time.
Excellent. Okay, great. All right, another thing we want to do is just see if we can improve that flexibility of your hip rotation even more. So what we're going to do is we're going to work another little trigger point on your pelvis. So what we're going to do is you're just going to work in here a little bit. This might be a little bit tender. Ticklish or tender?
Ticklish.
And again, this here, we're affecting the rotation of the pelvis, because if the pelvis is rotated, it's going to affect the flexibility of the hip rotators, and it's going to either make the one hip internally rotated and the other one externally rotated. And what we found earlier with Whitney was that this was a more internally rotated leg and this was her more externally rotated leg, which is very common. We find about 80% of people are like that, Pete, and if I was to test you, it'd probably be about the same way.
Okay.
Because it's just, we're sort of dominant on one side of our body, and we don't know why, but that's just the way it works.
Is that equivalent to what hand you tend to favor, or not
sometimes
necessarily?
It's got to do with handedness as well.
Okay.
Because this side probably won't be quite as tender.
It's not.
Okay. Now, Whitney, tell me a bit now about your rotation of your hip now.
Wow.
Look at that. See that, Pete? Mm-hmm. She was real limited earlier in this motion here. She hardly had any internal rotation. But now,
Significant difference.
it's at almost 45 degrees there, 45 degrees there. And you probably find the hip feels real.
I'm hearing a lot of creaking and stuff. I hope that's the table
That's
and not
the
her
table.
joints. And okay, all right, just to make sure.
Yeah, okay, and then what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and just take a look at your flexibility of your latissimus dorsi. So bring your arms down for me, and take that arm back for me, and then take it down, and just see the ease that it takes to lift that arm. Okay, leave it back there for me. And we also want to just, we're not going to do a muscle strength test with the gauge here. I just want you just to see if you, we're just going to sort of do a subjective test here. You're going to try to keep your arm in this position and not let me pull over, okay? So on 3, I want you to hold. 1, 2, 3, hold. Okay, good. Not very great strength. I can see her. She's trying to engage her neck and her upper shoulders to try to hold here. Okay, so on 3, you hold one more time. 1, 2, 3, hold. Okay. All right, were you ready? Let's try one more time.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, hold. Okay, there's just not a lot of strength there. So what we want to do is try to improve that strength. So what we're going to do is you're going to go ahead and take your arm over your head. And another thing we can do before we get into this, to these points right here, is you can test your abdominal strength as well, because I'm going to be working on some points that are going to improve your abdominal strength. And so what you do is go ahead and sit up for me and bring your knees up. Okay, now put your arms across your chest and go down a little bit. Okay, now don't let me push you down on 3, okay? A little bit lower. Okay, 1, 2, 3, hold. See, there's just not a lot of strength there. That means the rectus abdominis, which is the main muscle that works straight down here, quite a big part of the core, isn't working very well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and have her take her arm over her head here, Pete, and we're just going to work here on the rib cage. Now this might be a little bit tender there, Whitney.
Now, why the ribs?
Well, the reason we're working the ribs is because this is an attachment point for the external oblique and the rectus abdominis. So when we work these, we are going to be affecting the alignment of the spine, because you see her shoulder is only as good as her spine. So as we start working these, we'll actually start improving the strength of her arm, and she might even feel it starting to actually improve in flexibility. Do you feel it falling back a little bit?
I do. It's tender there. It's starting to loosen up.
Okay. Now we're just going to work down here on the edge of the ribs down here. And this is also an attachment point of rectus abdominis. Okay. Now, let's take a look and see what we did for Whitney's arm strength, the ability of her arm to hold. You probably noticed, just take your arm down now and take it back from me and tell me if it feels lighter.
It does feel lighter.
Yeah? Isn't that a weird feeling?
Wow.
Almost like someone's
Crazy.
helping you?
Yeah.
Okay, now, don't let me pull your arm over on 3, okay? 1, 2, 3, hold. You can see my arm flexing here of me trying to pull her over. You can see that strength. 1, 2, 3, hold. I feel a lot stronger.
A lot stronger. That's so crazy.
Just by working on the rib cage.
Okay, now what we're going to do is we're just going to do the other side. So what you're going to do is you're going to go and take your arm over your head on that side. And also just get a fix on the ease of lifting that arm. You probably find that feels kind of almost a little heavy in relation to that one now, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah?
Noticeably
Okay.
different.
Take the arm up for me. Okay, this is also probably going to be a little tender over here as well, but maybe not quite as bad as that other side. But we're working just here on the 5th rib, and this is where the external oblique and the rectus abdominis attach. These are kind of like, almost like party tricks, Pete. We had a dinner party last night, and we had our guests get on the dinner table.
Whip out the table, yeah.
And they were just blown away as well. They just couldn't believe how their body can switch just within a matter of seconds.
Before or after the drinks?
Actually, after the drinks.
I wonder, David, you talk about the applications here, and there's a cottage industry around NFL combine training, I think, when they go out to bench press 225, however many times.
Right.
If you sat a guy down 5 or 10 minutes before he had to do that and did this,
Absolutely.
that I would think would improve his
Absolutely.
reps.
It would.
Yeah.
It would. In fact, we would improve. What's nice about what we do is we improve everything about the individual, their entire function. So their 40-yard dash is going to improve. Their vertical jump would improve. Their bench press would improve. Because we don't just work on bits and pieces of the body. We work on the whole body. So that's why this has the results it does.
And this is going to be the nature of our 30-minute show. This will be a 30-minute session, but you typically go 60 to 90, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Most of my sessions are 60 minutes long, because that's when I feel like I can really get into the person's imbalances and try to iron out the imbalances. So we didn't test the strength on here first earlier, but you probably noticed now. Take your arm down and back and tell me if that feels lighter.
It does feel lighter.
Does the discomfort in your shoulder feel a little bit better?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Now don't let me pull over on 3 here. Hold there for me. 1, 2, 3, hold. See? Nice and strong. Okay, one more time. 1, 2, 3, hold. Do you feel like you almost have to even try less to keep that arm there now?
It does. It's weird.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah? Go ahead and come up into your sit-up position again for me. Okay. Now, hold here for me. Go down a little bit. And on 3, I want you to hold for me, okay? 1, 2, 3, hold.
Wow. Wow. And your face is
different.
red.
Yeah, that's right. He was trying. He's not sandbagging.
That's a way big difference. And just from that.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So what we also want to do is, it's important that we kind of just structurally work through your body. So we've activated your core by working the psoas major, but we've also worked the abdominals by working the rib cage. So now what I want to do is just work a little bit on the side of your rib cage here. So just take that arm up there for me. Oh yeah, sorry.
Got my microphone here.
We'll just. Okay, that's good. I'm just going to work in there a little bit. That might be a little bit tender over there as well. But the tenderness, you know, is sort of a sign to the individual and to me that I'm doing the right thing. If I'm working a point that's not tender, it tells me it doesn't really need to be worked. Just like I say, the body has a bit of a diagnostic computer on board. These are the diagnostic little buttons.
Right there. Do you feel that? That's
feels a little gristly, a little grainy right there. But what you're going to notice is that this is also going to improve your shoulder flexibility. So we're just going to... Okay, now bring your arm down now for me. Bring your arm down and take it back and tell me if it feels maybe even a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Feels like it's flatter and...
Your flexibility is improved.
So what do we call this area here we were working?
That there is actually an area where we're working the external oblique muscles. The external obliques attached there on the sides of the ribs. Now we're going to do this side. Go ahead and take your arm back there for me. This here might be a little bit tender as well. But basically what we do, Pete, regardless of whoever comes to me, we treat everyone the same. Because we work both sides of the body, we know we're going to catch the person's problem.
Right there.
Yeah. So, and Whitney is like many people we work on. She's got the same kind of imbalances that we see in just about everyone we work on.
Women have a higher threshold of pain. I know Whitney's more fit than I am, so she's handling this a lot better than I do. I know that.
She's,
I'm squirming and in pain by now.
Well, it's all got to do with the individual as well. The more balanced the person is, the less painful the points are going to be. But it's definitely the trade-off is definitely worthwhile because these are immediate changes and they're not something that's going to sort of fade with the morning. They're not just going to fade by morning. These points, this flexibility and the strength that she has is going to stay with her.
Now I know
which is so different than most different types of therapies and massage therapy and things like that.
I was going to say, I know this is not analogous, but in the sense that people are accustomed to going to the massage therapist once a week, once a month, going to the chiropractor, whichever schedule. What is a typical schedule for something like this?
Well, it depends. When someone comes to me initially, I like to try to see if I can get them in frequently enough that we can kind of get the muscle imbalances sort of as much out of the body as we can so that the body doesn't revert back to its old postural habits. And then as the person starts getting stronger, we say that the frequency can go down a little bit. But the glue that holds everything together after we work on someone like this is to do the core training. We do the core training afterwards, and that helps to sort of reinforce and glue in the corrections we're putting into her body. And she'll actually work out better after we're done here. So let's just go ahead and take that arm down there for me now and tell me if that feels even better now after doing the side of your ribs.
Oh my goodness, it does. And I've had trouble with my
And does that shoulder feel a little bit better?
Yeah, the right shoulder feels
You don't feel that pain or that discomfort there anymore?
Not as much at all.
So when you're talking about combining this with some core training, and it is an integrated system, I know, you wouldn't be doing 60 minutes of this followed by core training. That's maybe 10 to 15 of this, I'm thinking?
Well, it just depends. When the person's, the first sessions we work on someone, initially what we're going to do is we want some strictly just myotonic sessions where we're just working on the imbalances. As the person's imbalances and the points start to, once the person's points start to go down, it tells me that the person's balance is starting to come back. Now they're in more of a better state to exercise. If I make you exercise when you've got a lot of muscle imbalances, you're never going to access that weakness because your body is just going to continue compensating for the muscles that are already tight. The analogy is driving that car with bad alignment. You need to get it fixed. You need to take it to the shop. It's not just going to get better on its own. And you see, when you exercise with muscle imbalances, the body won't access that weakness. And that weakness is the problem. So what we're doing here is we're getting the weak muscles literally activated with the myotonics. And then we go and take the body when it's in that stronger, more functional posture to go now and do the core training. And now we'll access the core muscles. Before, they were literally switched off. Just like I can switch off any of these lights and they'll never come back on unless I switch them on. It's the same with muscles. The muscles will be compensated for by the brain because it's so used to using those muscles that are tight. And the muscles that tend to get tight are all the muscles that move us, Pete, because those are the ones that help us survive. Those are the ones that move us out of danger. The ones that hold us still, which are our core muscles, are less likely to be favored by the brain because they're not going to be the ones that are going to move us out of the path of the speeding bus down US 19 here. The ones that are going to move us are your quads, your psoas, your calves, the muscles that would push anything dangerous away would be your pecs. Right. So the analogy of what you asked earlier of doing a bench press is really, to me, is the most non-functional exercise I can think of is a bench press. And sit-ups as well. Sit-ups really aren't going to train your core. You need to do exercises that challenge your body in the standing position because that's how we operate. We operate in the standing position.
I think we have time for one more party trick, if you will.
Okay.
What's next?
So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just loosen this arm even a little bit more. So we're just going to rub in here. And we're just going to loosen your latissimus dorsi a little bit. That might be a little bit tender in there too.
It is really tender right there.
This would be more tender, I would think, if we're dealing with a baseball player, a basketball player.
Absolutely. They have some of the, obviously someone that's dominant on one side of their body, like a baseball pitcher, is going to have a lot of imbalances because they're going to be favoring one side more than the other. So now we're just going to work in here a little bit. You might find this side might be more tender than the other side. Sometimes it's
Why?
less.
Oh, because it's my right arm.
Well, this is the side you're having a lot of the shoulder issues on, right?
Yes. It's a lot more tender just right there.
Right there? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now what I want you to do is take both of those arms over your head now and tell me how that feels now with your arms. They feel kind of almost like they weigh nothing?
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, what we're going to quickly do also is to see if we can just release your neck. I'm going to try to make your neck looser, but I'm not going to touch your neck. That's what's kind of nice about what we do, Pete. We fix people's backs, and we never roll them over onto their stomachs. We never touch the back, and that's what she'll feel as well. Just go ahead and hold on down there and just kind of push your chest out a bit so that you angle those ribs back a little bit. I might find that's a little bit tender there.
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll do the other side. You're going to just keep those shoulders down. So Pete, here what we're doing is we're working on the weak muscles of the back that are allowing the ribs to angle forward, which is what we call the iliocostalis thoracis muscles. You don't need to remember that. It's not going to be a pop quiz, but that is this is one of the key muscles that help to keep the ribs in that lifted position. So that's what I'm asking you to do is actually lift your rib cage, and it might even feel like it's almost easier to lift your rib cage now. Mm-hmm. Does it?
It does.
Like to lift the rib cage? Mm-hmm. Good. Okay, now what I want you to do is just move your neck left and right and tell me how your neck feels. Does it feel nice and loose?
It feels loose.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay. What we'll do is we're just going to finish off with your neck, so we're just going to do it in the back. I don't know how we're doing for time.
We're good. We're good.
Okay, just keep that same position for me. We're just going to work in there a little. Is that a little tender right there?
It is.
Okay, now I'll do this side. Just let the head just rest in my hand. There we go. A little bit tender there too, huh?
It is tender there.
And I always tell people that, you know, that when we work the tender spots, it's, you know, it's in a way it's almost a good thing when we find the point and it goes down, because then we know it's confirming exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing results, and it's being confirmed by the range of motion and by the strength improvements. So the body, like I say, all these points are diagnostic. They confirm exactly what we're doing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have you roll your head left and right and tell me how your neck feels now. Look at that. You can already see her neck is dramatically improved in flexibility.
That's so weird.
Yeah. She'll have no problem driving home and checking the lanes left and right. Myotonics. If you want to try a little tenderness, as it were, you want to check out David Peterson. You can find him online at bodytuneupshop.com and check out all of his endeavors. If you're in the Tampa Bay area, you can check him out in person. Whitney is now officially tuned and feeling good. She'll be with us again next week. For David Peterson, for Whitney Lassiter, I'm Pete Williams. Thanks for joining us.
Chicks dig me because I rarely wear underwear, and when I do, it's usually something unusual.
He's not on steroids, but it was nice of you to ask.
You are a very bad person, Peter.
Hey, Peter.
Yeah.
Watch out for your cornhole, bud.
Right.
In 23 years of broadcasting, I thought I'd seen it all, folks.
You gotta love a man who can broadcast naked behind a microphone.
What the hell are you doing?
Here's your host of the Fitness Buff Show, Pete Williams.